If you think about sales and stand-up comedy, what are you trying to do? You're trying to basically do the most professional, clean, spoken version of a language that you possibly can. That's what sales is. It's the most extreme, professional way of speaking a language that there is. And stand-up comedians and salespeople are trying to do pretty much the same thing. It's like you're trying to give the most exemplary way of speaking a language.
Well, maybe we'll just kick it off.
Yeah.
I know you're a busy man. You've got an incredible company you're building.
Thank
I think we met some time ago, but spent a little bit of time chatting in Nashville when you came to speak for, what was that event? I can't even remember what it was.
It was a Hover roofing insurance event in Nashville in this like really fancy hotel
That's
area. Yeah, that was like 2 hours away from everything, but it was really nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Learn more about your product there. I saw you speak at Service Titan, and we've got a number of our brands using your product, and it's pretty incredible. But before we go into the product, just a little bit of background, because, dude, you've got an incredible story. 17 years old, it sounded like. I did some research on you. 17 years old, Dominican Republic. Is that right?
Yeah, so I was I was born and raised in the Dominican Republic until I was 17. My parents found me highly annoying, so they shipped me off to Miami to an all-boy Jesuit Catholic school because they were like, "Oh, the priests are going to figure out the demons there," and they didn't. And it just like like they were trying to put me in control. And then I came to Miami. My family stayed back home. I just stayed with this family in Miami, and then I went to college from there, and here we are.
What'd you study in college, Sebastian?
I started studying philosophy. I wanted to be a PhD in philosophy. Now, I'm like, this is a funny thing. What a beautiful mind I have back then. I wanted to study philosophy. And so I took 3 majors. I said politics, philosophy, and economics. And then I was like, oh, I became discontent with the path of a philosopher. I was like, oh, you become a PhD, and that means you write these papers that nobody reads. And then when I started college, I started doing stand-up comedy because I went to New York University. I went to NYU. When you go to NYU, they just throw you in New York City. And you're just like, these kids are just trying to find themselves in the city. And I had always been a clown. Like, I love making people laugh. So I started doing stand-up comedy when I was a freshman. And very quickly, I was like, oh, I really like this stand-up thing. I became addicted to this. And I was doing it six times a day, 7 days a week, just doing stand-up. And then I just forgot about the whole philosophy thing. And then I just started, my degree says now that I studied quantitative econometrics and data science economics or something like that. But that's a bunch of crap, because what I really studied was stand-up, because that's where I spent most of it. Yeah, literally. I was just an unemployed clown making jokes in New York City. That's what I was doing.
So were you like a Descartes fan or Jung or Nietzsche, or like what was your I got Marcus Aurelius behind me. I'm a big fan of the Stoics. So
Yes. So I started reading all the Germans in high school when I was like 13. And that's like, how my parents find me highly annoying. The German philosophers are to blame. I was like reading Nietzsche, like, like all this good and evil. There's no such thing as morality. And it's like, as you can imagine, like a 13-year-old, like I'm like sitting down in the kitchen table without a shirt. And my mom's like, you have to put a shirt on. And I was like, Nietzsche says that doesn't matter, that this is so yeah.
Knowing you now, knowing your personality, you're a hell of a sales guy. So you're probably able to convince your mom not to wear the shirt for the rest of the week.
Yeah, exactly. And so so that was such a fun time. I used to read all of that stuff, but then stand up, and then now
I was a big fan of Jordan Peterson. I still am. And so when he came onto the scene, I started reading some of that old stuff and read some Alexander Solzhenitsyn and the Gulag, that 1,800-page archipelago. Like, you learn some pretty crazy stuff about the human, existence.
Yeah. The philosophy is just interesting to read because it's like the precursor of science. Now we call it, like, the philosophers used to be the scientists. It was all math and physics all combined. And then Newton came in and made it all like kind of like more disciplined. And, but yeah, it was just like, I read philosophy more like reading the history of the world and like, oh, what were people thinking at this time? And that was like just an interesting thing. You could see a lot of what happened in history. Like if you read the German philosophers, you're like, oh, that makes sense that they went to war against the world.
How much
back
do you
in those
think,
days.
yeah, yeah, that's funny you say that. How much you're a hell of a sales guy now, so how much do you think of that knowledge undergirds the way you persuade people? Like, and that has to be in there, right?
Well, I
Because
just
selling is part persuasion, right? I mean, it's part, getting people to
yeah.
understand your point of view and, um,
Yeah, I
one
mean, I just read a lot. So I think reading a lot of complicated ideas makes you linguistically smarter and more intelligent. And because of that, if you then stand, if you think about sales and stand up comedy, what are you trying to do? You're trying to basically do the most professional, uh, clean, spoken version of a language that you possibly can. That's what sales is. It's the most extreme professional way of speaking a language that there is. And stand up comedians and salespeople are trying to do pretty much the same thing. It's like you're trying to give the most exemplary way of speaking a language to somebody because it's all professional and you're trying to get the other person to do something. It's not random. It's calculated. And so reading, number one, it gives you a ton of vocabulary, so you just have more tools. It's like a basketball player having more tricks or moves. Like Michael Jordan had a lot of moves and tricks and stuff, and so you get a lot of vocabulary, and then it just makes you linguistically smart. So not just philosophy, but just reading complicated concepts that allows you to just speak better. And that also translates to sales, right?
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I read a ton, and I
yeah.
credit that to my development, not only as a business owner, but a leader and a better father, a better
Yeah.
planet. Um, but it's also understanding mirroring and understanding, um, really how to emotionally connect with the person you're trying to meet with, because facts tell, stories sell. So it's important to understand when you should say things and when you should not say things. That's all the part of the sales process. And we're going to talk about the app that you have, which is just
Yeah.
it's wild, and it teaches a lot of that stuff. But before we do that, I do have to understand philosophy to a comedy. I mean, that's just wild. I mean, you had to bomb a bunch of times on stage, right? Tell me
Yeah.
what that was like. I mean,
No, that was great. I love bombing. I didn't bomb. I bombed. I would do like these. I didn't bomb that regularly, but when I did, I bombed really hard, and which was. It's like the best feeling in the world. It's like almost like masochistic. It's like you're drowning and nobody's there to save you, and just like because and stand. What's so beautiful about stand up is, if you're like an artist and you're a painter you can kind of like BS yourself. You can kind of like say like, oh, it's subjective, and you see like somebody putting a toilet like in the MoMA, and it's like, oh, it's modern art. It's like, no, no, it's a toilet, and it smells like piss. This is not art. This is like, this is gross. But with comedy, you can't do that because it's binary. It's like, are they laughing or are they not laughing? And if they're not laughing, what's so awesome about stand up is that there's no BSing it. It's either you make them laugh or you didn't make them laugh. And if you make them laugh, you win. You didn't make them laugh, you lose. And when you don't make them laugh, everybody just looks at you. You're like, holy crap, man, you thought that was funny? You wrote it out and you said it out loud. And it's like, yeah,
that's what's interesting about comedy. I've always found too is because you got to continue to push the edge. Like if you stay in the kind of the zeitgeist of
yeah.
the moment, like you're not pushing the boundaries. Maybe it used to be funny, but it's not funny anymore. But in order to create that next laugh, it's almost like you got to go a little outside and
Yeah,
you
because
got
it's
to
all
test it.
novelty. It's all novelty, right? So
Yeah.
the best comedians, you see that they're coming up with new materials all the time. And what I was gonna say about the worst time I bombed was in the Dominican Republic. I was doing my first set in Spanish, right? My brother just set it up. He invited like hundreds of people, and nobody was laughing. It was like so bad. My dad was heckling me. My dad was like, boo, go back to school. This sucks. This is horrible. What the hell are you doing? This is why I'm spending my money for you to do this crap. And my sister and this one psychopath in the crowd, that was the only guy laughing. And I was just like me and him. I was like, I'm with you. Hey man, you're with me now. We're in this together. I'm gonna keep talking. I gotta be here for 30 minminutes.
Yeah. One guy
And
got what he
so
paid for in the audience. Everybody else was
He
disappointed.
was laughing at the situation more than anything, which I appreciate it. It was pretty funny. So I was like, "Hey, man, just keep doing your thing, and I'm gonna keep doing my thing. We're gonna get through this." So
There's a lot of stand-up comics here in Nashville, as you know. Theo Vaughn's not too far away, and in
oh
fact,
wow,
he's been. We live in this community here in Nashville, and I see him in here quite often.
he's
So
so
it's
funny.
yeah. What type of comedy do you like? Is it that kind of dry, witty
Yeah,
type?
he's so. I mean, I like a lot like comedy in general. Like when I was doing stand up, I used to watch the old Richard Pryor tapes and George Carlin and Monty Python's Flying Circus, and you know, like all the old school comedians were
Yeah.
so cool. And then like Louis C.K. and Bill Burr and Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle, I would say, would probably be my favorite comedian of all time. And then next to
Talk about a
him,
guy who pushes the boundaries. That's a guy who pushes the boundaries
yeah, yeah, yeah,
as
yeah, yeah.
well.
Like Dave
Yeah.
Chappelle's like so cool, and he's just like interesting to listen to, also. So I find him super funny. Trevor Noah, when he was in South Africa, he was actually like I love his like his actual stand up. Like before he went to the, I don't really watch the Daily Show or any of these things, but
Yeah.
Trevor Noah's stand up is like so good, at, like from South Africa, and I love watching those comedians because it's like you get to learn about their like a completely different culture or whatever it is. And
Worldview, yeah.
so, yeah, so Trevor Noah was pretty funny, but Dave Chappelle, I would say, is my favorite comedian. Yeah.
So when did you realize that comedy wasn't the path?
I didn't. I love comedy, and it wasn't an easy decision. Um, So what happened was I was at college from 2014 to 2018. I did stand up for all 4 years of college. I was getting good at it. So I was pretty confident that I was going to make it as a comedian. Like some of the people I was doing stand up with are now writers for SNL. So the school I went to in Miami, I literally took classes. I was sitting next to Marcelo Hernandez, who's in SNL. He's like really funny. He's like this Dominican Cuban kid. He's like super famous now. And so I was like around all these funny people. So I was like really confident I could make it. But then I got addicted to this. That what's so great about stand up for business is that it's the one of the few art forms you have to practice in front of a crowd. So most musicians and writers and poets and artists, they spend a lot of time alone in the room. In stand up, you literally have to go and tell your joke to people, even if it's not ready, even if it's half baked. You have to tell people the joke because you don't know if it's going to be funny unless you tell it to somebody. And so it forces you to generate ideas, then you write them down, then you have to launch the ideas very quickly, then you fail very quickly. And then from the failure, you become a very astute learner of failure. And from every time you fail, you try to make the joke a little bit better every single time. Maybe the joke was funny, but the punchline was wrong, the setup, the way you held the mic, the pause at the end, the way you looked at the crowd. And so you iterate a bunch of different times until you land the joke. And so I became addicted to that. When I was a junior in college, I had an internship with this Forbes author who needed somebody who was funny to interview a bunch of tech founders. I didn't know anything about tech growing up. From the DR, like I didn't know who Steve Jobs was or Bill Gates. I thought the richest guy in the world was Donald Trump. Second richest was Vince McMahon because they had a battle of the billionaires in WrestleMania 23. So I was like, this guy's the richest. Vince McMahon's second. I didn't know anything about tech. And then when I interviewed these tech founders, the way they talked about building their companies was very similar to me to what I was doing in stand-up. You have an idea, you launch it, you fail. And from this failure, you then iterate ad infinity. And then you figure out product market fit, which is the holy grail of tech startups. So you figure it out, something that people truly want. There's a market for it. You build a product and then people just pull it out of your hands. And so I was like, oh my, I could probably do that. And by the time I was a senior in college, I was like, what do I do? It's like a decision tree. It's like, what do I do? Do I do tech? Do I do stand up? And in my mind, I was like, well, if I do stand up, I'm probably going to do stand up forever because I love stand up and I'm kind of good at it and I could probably make it. If I do tech, I don't know anything about business. I never went to class. I don't know how to code. I don't know how to code. I'm not technical. So I'm probably going to fail flat on my face and, have a great story to tell when I come back to stand up. And I'll fail like in 3 to 6 months. And unfortunately for me, here we are 6 years later. we have, it's been more. It's been like 7 years now. 7 years later, we've been very successful and I haven't been able to go back to stand up. So it was more like I had this thing that I really loved doing, but then I had almost like this calling to do this other thing. Like, oh, maybe there's an adventure over here. So I
Well,
went and did that.
maybe at the next Rilla Masters, you can have a set. You can,
Yeah.
you can
Coach K. Coach K was roasting the hell out of me. It was so funny. We had Coach K at the Rilla Master, and he started the whole talk. He's like, I've never been interviewed by a washed-up comedian. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And he just kept roasting me. It was so funny. So
tell me about the idea then. So you're interviewing tech guys. You want to do comedy, but you're like, hey, there might be something to this. How does this idea even come to fruition?
yeah, so I say there's like 4 miracles to create a tech company that works. The first one is you actually have to find the right idea at the right time. That's really important. Then you have to find the right market for that idea. Then you have to build the right product for that market. And then you have to do what we call crossing the chasm, which is you monopolize your first market of early adopters who then are able to take you mainstream, and then you scale really big. And every single one of these I call a miracle because it's so rare. And it's like miracle to the power of four. Like you have to have these four things happening at the same time. And the idea itself is there are people say like, oh, ideas don't matter that much. No, no. Ideas are actually um, they're really important. Like if entrepreneurs pick the wrong ideas at the wrong time, it doesn't work, right? And so when I graduated college, like every great joke, it started as a bad joke. I came up with a really crappy idea, and it took me about a year and a half to come up with the right idea. It took me about a year and a half to say, hey, I had these ideas of what we were going to work on. We made some money originally with the idea that I had. It was like a field marketing management software that we sold to companies like Heineken and Red Bull. They get a bunch of college kids, they put them in uniforms, they send them out to college campuses and music festivals, and they give you seltzer or Red Bull, whatever it is, and they market the product. And at the time, they were using my software to manage those field marketing activities. Think of like a service titan for field marketing, like manage all of your field marketing, not field sales or field service, for field marketing. And so we were making like, like 100 grand in a few months. And I was like, living it. I thought I was so rich because I was counting in pesos. I was like, dude, we are millionaires in pesos. Like, this is crazy. I was living on like $30,000 a year myself. And I thought I was so rich. I was like, in New York City, I was like, this is awesome.
Well, you'd be rich
This
for a
is
stand-up comic at that. Most stand-up comics.
exactly. I'm like, I was going to be a comedian. I was like, I'm not going to make any money for like 10 years. And so I was looking for the next idea because I didn't think that idea was going to scale very big. And then one day I was talking to one of my users, the field marketing manager at Heineken, and I figured out that Heineken had 4 million face-to-face conversations with consumers every month offline, face-to-face, from these field marketing activities where they're giving people seltzer, they say what they think about the product, they leave. And they were spending like hundreds of millions of dollars on surveys, focus groups, market research, social media analytics to understand their customers better. And so I thought, what if we could capture these millions of conversations that they're having with people face to face and actually pull data from it using AI so that they can actually do consumer insights, consumer intelligence way faster, better, more productive than with a survey that they're spending like all this money and getting so little data. And so then I thought, well, if Heineken has 4 million conversations, how many does Coca-Cola have? How many does Red Bull? I thought, why stop at field marketing? They have field salespeople that go out and talk to restaurant owners and bar owners and hotels and supermarkets to try to sell their products. Well, why stop at food and beverage? There's people who sell windows, siding, flooring, doors, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roofing, solar, and people who sell medical devices, pharmaceuticals. And then I realized, oh, wow, the largest segment of employment in the private sector in the United States is in-person sales. That is, there's 12 million outside sales and service people in America, including retail salespeople that sell at the Apple stores, the Best Buy stores, and so on and so forth. And that is literally the only other segment of employment that has more people in it than this one is the government. Like people who work for, it's like there's so many people it's like in-person sales is the largest segment of private employment. And they have billions of conversations with consumers every single month, offline, face to face. And so I was like, in people's homes and people's stores and people's businesses. And so I thought, if we can capture these billions of conversations and make sense of them, we can help every business in the world be as intelligent about their customers as Google and Amazon are. And so that became the vision for Rilla. We called it Rilla for guerrilla marketing because it came from field marketing, the original name. And that was when I found the generational idea. It was the first miracle. Okay, that idea was right. But then that was 2019. It took me like 3 years to find the right market for the right use case for that idea. And it was like, we started field marketing because that was the first market. And then very quickly, for Rilla, yes. So our customers from my previous company, we were like, hey, do you want to use this thing to analyze the conversations that people are having at your events? They said, that sounds amazing. We could get so much data. That sounds great. The problem is when we tested, we did an MVP. It was like a microphone that we put out there. We would listen to the microphone manually. There was no ChatGPT back then. So we would literally listen to the microphone manually and we would type in the data in a spreadsheet. And then we would send the spreadsheet to the customer the next day of like what people were talking about. It's literally, and then when we listened to the audio, it was just like a bunch of nonsense. It was like at a frat party, this girl came in screaming, everybody sign up for Cash App, we have free pizza. Everybody sign up for Cash App. And like people, like there's Pitbull singing in the background. And we're like, this is a bunch of nonsense. We can't do anything with this conversation. And so we were like, oh, that's what I say about finding the right market. That wasn't a product problem. That was a market problem. I was like, we need to find a market that has better conversations that are less noisy, that make more sense. So we went to retail. So you walk into a Macy's, you walk into a Sephora, we went to retail. Retail actually was way better than field marketing for many different reasons. But then COVID came at the beginning of 2020 and all of our customers were going out of business and we were like, oh crap. And then we literally tested like 27 different market verticals, different use cases. And then we figured out field sales. We were like, oh my God, people do ride-alongs. Everybody who does field sales, they do ride-alongs. And we're like, oh my God, what if we do the virtual ride-along? And that was the first use case that we were like, this sounds like it could be really, really good. It took us a year of evaluating different use cases and different field sales and different types of markets. And we found our first customer, a roofing company, a StormGuard roofing and construction company. I reached out to the president on LinkedIn. I just started reaching out to anybody who did field sales. They got back to me pretty quickly. I reached out to them on a Tuesday. They got back to me on a Wednesday. They bought the same day. By next Wednesday, we had our first case study of a customer saying, like, this is the most amazing thing we've ever seen. This is so awesome. And then I was like, wait, what do you guys sell again? And it was like, oh, we sell shingles, man. I was like, what? I was like, are you guys sick? Like, what do you mean you guys are selling shingles? Like, what do you mean the shingle? Like, no, man. I'm like, because I'm in New York City. We don't have shingles in New York City. There's no roofs. So I was like, oh, okay, shingles, like the roof. And I was like, oh, this is so awesome. And when we found roofing, that's when really things started just taking off. And 2022, we started selling to roofers and then remodelers and then home services. Like we just started growing from there. And that's when we became one of the fastest growing startups today, one of the fastest growing startups of all time. And it's because we found that right market of early adopters. And it had to be roofers, it had to be home remodelers, because for a product like this, you need to find a market that really, number one, they really care about sales. Number two, they really care about coaching and training and developing their people. Because you go to other markets, people might care. And this is a lesson for entrepreneurs. Is like, any new product, but especially in tech companies, if you launch your product, the right market, there's so many markets for your product if it's a good idea. And like Amazon, there's so many things that Amazon sells online, but what they started with books. Why did they start with books? Because books was the best market of all the different markets to start with, because Jeff Bezos, you hear his interviews, he's like, there's no more of any product than there are books. There are 5 million different types of books in circulation. The internet, what it does really well is it gives you selection, unlimited selection. So he went for the category of product that there was the most of. There's not 5 million different types of apples and oranges. So he didn't start with groceries. He started with books. Let's monopolize this first. So for us, that was roofing and home remodeling. We have to find this first market. So,
you talk about the miracles, like the 4 miracles, but one thing that was also pretty serendipitous, I think, is the fact that the technology caught up with you pretty quick over the last few years, right? The ability to record, the iPhones are getting better at recording, so they can do a better job of that. The AI can listen better, it can interpret the audio better. So maybe talk about that over the last couple of years, because the product has gotten
way better. Yeah. Better. And I would say that's like, people talk about that usually of like as a timing thing, like, oh, great companies are built in the right time, and timing's like really matters. Like, for instance, there was another competitor to Amazon called Webband.com in the 1990s, and they were selling food online in the 1990s, which was a horrendous, there was no iPhones, there was no GPS tracking, there was no network of people that you could get like an Instacart. So the product failed completely. So people say that was wrong timing. I just think that it's not just timing, it's just picking the right idea. Like, you have agency on picking the right idea at the right time. So even when I was deciding for the idea for Rilla, I was already aware that AI was going to be a big deal. And when you're looking for ideas, especially in tech companies, ideally you want to look for problems that can be solved with the cutting edge technology at the time. By cutting edge, is like you're at the very cusp of the new technology that is happening or is about to happen, right? So a lot of startups started because of the iPhone. Instacart started because of the iPhone. Snapchat, Instagram, all of them because the iPhone put a camera. So what are the new foundational technologies that are happening? AI has been around since 2012. People have been talking about AI. And I remember reading, like, I think Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, I remember him talking about like AI is the next frontier. I was like, I need to look for something that has AI. Even before it was cool and like so popular, I was like, AI seems to be the next frontier. So even that was like something methodical of like, hey, we need to be an AI. Obviously, we got really lucky then, because it's like, oh my God, ChatGPT comes out, then GPT-4, then Claude. And it's just like, when we were doing this product, we were doing everything in-house, like the transcription and the analysis, and like everything had to be, we had to build so many things because we started before all this AI was so good. And when ChatGPT came out, and like, it just saved us millions of dollars of research and development, like hundreds of millions of dollars, years. It's like we literally saw a product go into the future overnight. It was insane. Like you've used Rilla. It's like Rick AI. Rick AI was not possible. Rick AI is our assistant AI sales coach that understands everything about your sales process and your salespeople. Like that wasn't possible before. And and so before we like to say that we had a glorified transcription tool, and now we actually have a proper AI assistant sales coach that can help you coach your people 100 times better. And so that wouldn't have been possible without all these developments. And we were very lucky to have them.
What do you think you've learned, Sebastian? Obviously, you guys record, I mean, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, probably millions, millions, yeah, millions of interactions with salespeople and customers. Like, what are some top things that you've seen in our industry in the last couple of years that really moved the needle between the one percenters, the top sales guys, and kind of everybody else?
Like, before we used to do these like generic analysis, and we just like it's actually so we have Ricks that can, we have like an internal Rick that can analyze all the millions of conversations like on the spot. And like the nuance of the analysis is getting so awesome. So I'm going to start from the most generic. Like the most generic one that we found at the beginning, we again, at the time we did this, it was like 4 million conversations that we had analyzed. The top 1% of top performers, and I'm going to talk about roofing specifically, and this applies to home remodeling. They're talking like 45 to 65% of the time versus the customer, compared to the average salespeople, they talk 75 to 85% of the time. Their talk speed, the talk speed of the top performers, the average human talk speed is about 150 to 160 words per minute. The top performers talk, there is an ideal sales talk speed, is about 184 to 190 words per minute. And that's about, if people don't understand what that sounds like, I'm talking about at 214 words per minute. I'm a little bit faster than usual. If you listen to a podcast at 1.2x speed, that's what it sounds like to talk as a top performer in sales. We found that the top performers keep their talk speed steady. The average reps actually raise their talk speed when it comes to handling objections because they get scared and they start going into fight or flight. And then they raise their talk speed and they start talking faster because they feel like, I'm like, oh my God, Mr. Homeowner, no. This is not, it's not expensive, because you got to understand our company, we have all these warranties and we have all the blah, 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 blah. The top performers, they do something like, oh, what do you mean the price is too high? Just keep it slow, keep it steady. Don't get nervous.
Would you say they even invert that? They slow down their talk speed when it comes to handling
Yes,
objections?
it's almost, you see like the little, like they just like, it's almost like they go in the zone, like game winning shot. We're in the closing time. It's the hot zone. Like let's focus. Let's slow it down. Let's make sure that this person, that's the critical thing in handling objection. You don't want the other person to go into fight or flight. When they say the price is too high, they're like, oh my God, am I going to go into a fight right here? And so if you start going into fight or flight, they go into fight or flight, you've lost the sale. And there's, one of the things that they do is they ask 25 open-ended questions per hour versus only 5 open-ended questions per hour for the average reps. And these are all generic things. We just did one like literally yesterday. I was just looking at I was like just curious, and I was like doing some analysis. And it was like the top 1% of top performers, they focus on promotions, and they drive urgency, and they use this thing of like, they take out the pressure. Like, yes, exactly. The relief valve. They do that better than anybody else. They're like, they'll say like, listen, this price is good if you want to take it. And they explain why it's urgent. Like, I don't know, we're not going to be able to keep these prices for so and so and so reason, because prices are going up, inflation, and manufacturers save the prices. And I don't want you to do anything that you're not comfortable with doing for lease, right? And they do that better than anybody else. And we were just doing an analysis on that. But yeah.
I think I read an article where you had implemented Rilla, a customer had bought it, and within a very short period of time, they had got rid of their whole sales staff and flipped a whole new sales staff in because either the folks weren't willing to use it or just weren't doing a good job in the house.
No.
Tell me about I probably one of the biggest concerns I would imagine a lot of people have using your product is the kind of the big brother, the 1984 Orwellian thought police behind the scenes. Like, are you being micromanaged? You know, why does the boss need to be listening to every word that's coming out of my mouth? I used to think that way 3 or 4 years ago. My mind is completely flipped the other way, but maybe you could talk about how you overcome that.
Well, actually, I love the 1984 analogy because that's a great book. I've read that book. And if you actually read the nuances of that book, yes, Rilla, it sounds like Big Brother, but if you actually read that book, Big Brother was a liar and they actually kept things. They deleted the historical record. They literally, like, the dictatorship of this. They literally would rewrite history. They would lie. They would. It was almost like the anti-record. It was like they would cleanse the record of anything bad and anything good. And Rilla is the total opposite of that. We don't want to cleanse the record. We want to know exactly what the truth is, and we want to. So we're like against 1980. We're like we're the rebellion against 1984 in a sense. But yes, this idea of like my reps are going to feel micromanaged. They're not going to like it. 1984 Big Brother. So that is the number one objection that we get in our sales calls. It is the number one concern that people have before implementing Rilla, as you just, like you said yourself that you had it. This is in every single market. We work with home builders that build homes. We work with auto service companies. We work with home service companies, home remodeling companies. We work with healthcare companies. Any single industry we go into, this is the number one concern that people have. Are my people going to quit? Are they going to feel micromanaged? Is it going to ruin the culture? And here's what happens. I'm just going to tell people what happens. Your top 20% of your people are going to absolutely hate this at first. They're going to hate it. They're more likely to be your top performers on average. Some top performers actually dig this very quickly, especially if they used to play sports and they have, they're used to this idea of like watching game film. Athletes use this app called Huddle in sports. Rilla is kind of like Huddle for sales. But anyways, so your top performers are more likely to hate this. The bottom reps and the people who are new are actually more likely to embrace this faster than anybody. The bottom reps, because they have no ground to stand on to tell you they're not going to do something because they're already at the bottom. The new people, because they have no expectations. So they're like, oh, okay, cool. This is a new app. Let me try it. Everybody else in the middle is likely concerned. There's this effect in psychology. It's called the Hawthorne effect. That's what they're scared of. The Hawthorne effect describes what people feel like when they're being recorded or reviewed or studied by other people. When there's a camera on you, it's like that's the Hawthorne effect. You act different when you're on camera than when you're not on camera, when you're being recorded. And that's because your senses of fight or flight are kind of elevated. It's the same thing of going into public speaking. It's the same effect. Like what the number one fear in America is not the fear of death, it's the fear of public speaking. By the way, people fear public speaking more. So when you put a recording on them, they're feeling the same thing as when you ask them to go up and role play in front of their whole class. But if you've ever asked your people to role play in front of your whole class, you will see what happens with the Hawthorne effect, which is it goes away very quickly through exposure therapy. How? Your brain cannot go into fight or flight so long. It literally burns itself out. Fight or flight is like a short thing. It doesn't. So when reps record at least 5 conversations, the Hawthorne effect goes away completely. They forget that they're even being recorded. They just press it as like a habit. It's just another thing that's there. They forget. 5 conversations, because that's about 5 hours of exposure to the Hawthorne. You just literally burn out from being afraid. And then nobody gets fired. Nobody's like, I gotcha. Like nothing bad happened. And they're like, oh, I cut the cord and nothing blew up. Okay, cool. We're safe. And in the first week, when you get people getting over this fear, especially the new reps in the bottom 30%, they start getting wins and they start closing deals. They're like, oh my God, I got feedback from my coach or my manager about doing this thing. I did it the next call. I closed it. You start hearing those early wins. Very quickly in the first month, those people start improving their sales. They start coming up on the leaderboard, getting closer to those top performers. And when that happens, the top performers, the one thing they fear more than the recording itself is not being the top performer. So immediately they start getting on it. Once the top performers get in it, the top performers, it's so funny. The top performers, we have like a testimonial video from this guy, Casey, from a roofing company in Louisiana. Casey was like, in the launch meeting, we do a launch meeting with all of our customers. Casey was like, I hate this. This is a bunch of crap. I don't need to be coached by nobody. I'm already closing millions of dollars, man. I'm not getting on this, blah, 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 blah. And it was like Casey, and then Casey 30 days later, he's like, listen, man, this is the best thing I've ever used in my life, man. This is helping me close more deals. Because the top performers are the people that naturally want to get better. So when you put them on this, they just start using it so much more.
Bingo, that's the key. You know what's interesting? What changed my mind a bit is when I sold my company the first time, I had to go out and be a public figure, which I'm not a big fan of. I wasn't a big fan of public speaking. And, but I had to do all these presentations in front of not only the board, but in front of different committees. And then I started speaking at different events. And so I wanted to become a better public speaker. So the first thing I did is I went online, I started researching how to become a better public speaker. And there's a guy named Vin Jing who's on, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him on YouTube, but he's got millions of followers. He's fantastic when it comes to public speaking. But he says, do this, set up a camera, put it on a tripod, hit record, video record, and just go ad hoc for 5 minutes, just talk. And then hit stop on the video. And the first thing you do is you play the video, but you turn the sound off and you just watch your hands do all kinds of stuff. And it's very humbling. Then you play it again, you set it down, turn it down. You don't watch it, you just listen. You listen for all the ums, the likes, the filler words, and then you watch it together. It's a very humbling experience if you've ever done that before. But if you do that and you continue to do it, you continue to practice, you get better. Your filler words become less, your hand movements become more natural. And it was in that moment that I'm like, if I would have had this tool back when I was selling in the home, that I could hear every word that I said, that I could feel how I delivered, that I knew where my pauses were, I'd have been a much better sales guy back in the day. And that was the key to unlock, where it wasn't a big brother. It is truly a tool to coach you to become better. You use an athlete reference. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, like if you look at any athlete of any sports, professional or otherwise, it's just like watching game film is a core part of their workflow. It would be unconscionable for a coach to not watch the game film with his players. It would be like negligent. It would be crazy. And the best athletes, they sit there and they watch their game film and they say like, oh, how could I have done this particular? And they go into the minutia. And there's so much minutia that you can go into sales. Like how do you say the greeting? How do you say hello? How do you set next steps? How do you set the agenda? Does that sound fair? What words are you using? With wordsmith and use a agreement instead of contract, investment instead of cost. Like all these different things that you can go into. Like there's so much that can happen in a 2-hour conversation that you can actually improve, micro improvements, macro improvements. And so we like to say, I realize sales is a sport. And the only difference was in a sport of sales, and you can coach your players, you can track results, but you can't be on the field when the game is going on. And it's like if you took Bill Belichick or Phil Jackson and you said, hey, you literally cannot be courtside when the game is going on. That would be weird. And you can't watch the game film and you can't watch it on TV. Like you can't watch anything that's happening. And from there, you have to coach your people. That's weird. And that's what happens in sales. We say, this is our process. Go do it. and then they don't close. And you're like, did you do it? Yeah, I did. And then, yeah.
I tell you, I was at Rilla Masters, and by the way, that was an unbelievable event.
Oh,
I thought it was fantastic. The theatrics I thought were not over the top, but they were beautiful. I thought the competition between the AI and the humans, I thought that was kind of fun. And you could have used stand up right there. I think you actually did. You throw some jokes there. You guys are trying to thread a very tight needle, which is interesting because me personally, this is just my opinion. This is great for the athlete to watch themselves on film. This to me probably eventually gets rid of the coach, unless you're talking about an enterprise that's got 20 or 30 sales reps. But your smaller ones that have smaller companies that have 5, 6, 7 reps, you're probably not hiring a sales manager for that anymore. But I'll set that to one side. That's just
I'd love to go into this. All
right, fair enough. Let's go do it.
Yeah,
but I want to double down just real quick and just add to a piece of that is there's a lot of folks right now who AI is everywhere. Claude, heck, Anthropic just went with $30 billion in AI. I mean, it's crazy how fast they're growing. That product is unbelievable, by the way. So I use it quite a bit. But people understand AI a little bit, but they don't know how to use it for their businesses. So your product uses it through this coaching methodology, through the AI piece. So maybe you could talk about both those things at the same time.
Yeah. So, and just to give folks like some understanding, so Rilla, just very simply, what we do is we are the AI coaching software for in-person sales. So for roofing, when you go out and you talk to customers, you record your conversations in person in their home with your phones or tablets or Apple Watches. And we use AI to transcribe, analyze, give you feedback on how you could have improved that conversation and help your manager do what we call virtual ride-alongs that are 100 times faster, better, more productive than physical ride-alongs. It's a very simple product. It works really, really well. So that's what Rilla does. We're using AI constantly and talking about, this conversation of AI, whether it'll automate or enhance. So at the Rilla Masters, which you were there, Josh, it was such a great, like that demo that we did of Rick Copilot, where the humans facing the AI, that was us trying to, make a drama out of the real kind of question that people are asking themselves. Is that AI going to replace my job? Especially when you think about Rilla, like, is Rilla out to replace the sales manager? And when we launched Rick Copilot is basically Rick AI you coach on Rilla. A sales manager will go literally and say, just like a football coach or like a basketball coach, they'll review your conversation really quickly using AI to do a summary, to see a score. They'll go to the part of the conversation, they'll give you feedback. They'll say, hey, right here, you should have done the release valve and like the top performer did. Right here, and then the rep will go and review that. Managers are doing millions of these virtual ride-alongs every year with Rilla now. Like every conversation that's recorded on Rilla, a manager goes in there and does a ride-along. It's amazing. Rick has learned from every manager how they're coaching, so that it basically copies how the coaches coach, and then it takes them to those moments so that they can basically have pre-generated feedback that sounds like them, it quacks like them, it goes to the moment that they would have gone into because it's been trained to think like them. So we were like, wow, if it's a co-pilot, what if we had an autopilot that could just replace the entire sales manager, just learn from the coaches and actually give the coaching itself? But what we realized, Josh, is the quality of the co-pilot feedback is good, but it's not amazing. Meaning, a sales manager has this understanding of the sales rep, of where they are in the sales coaching journey. Are they a new rep? Are they a more experienced rep? What is this rep's personality? What are they struggling with right now that I need to give them feedback? But what are the agenda? What's the big initiative that I'm trying to push in the company? They have all this context that the AI still doesn't have. And they have this way of delivering the feedback that's just a little bit better. And what we found is that the top 20% of coaches, their feedback is consistently better than the AI's feedback. Not because the AI feedback's bad, it's good, but it's just not stellar. And so we were like, this product, we don't want to launch a product that replaces a sales manager because it's just not good for companies, because their sales are going to go down if we miss this magic that we're getting from the human coaches. And so we wanted to show that, display that. And that's what we did. We literally had a battle between the human coaches and the AI autopilot. The coaches, it was like, who can do the most amount of ride-alongs in the least amount of time with the highest amount of quality of feedback? And what ended up happening was the humans were getting beat on quantity. Copilot comes in, which is the AI autopilot, the AI copilot working. It was like the Terminator, the good robot comes into with the humans to fight the evil robot. The humans using AI beat the AI on its own by like 2x in terms of quality and quantity of feedback. And so, and that was, by the way, that was not a fake demo. That was a real life competition that we were doing. Like, we rehearsed it a bunch of times we wanted the humans to win, and they should have won. But if they had lost, they would have lost on stage, by the way.
Yeah, that would have been probably detrimental. The people in the room.
Yeah, that would have been so bad. But what that shows is, and Gary Kasparov, who was the guy who lost against the IBM computer, he has a TED talk about this. Human with machine always beats machine alone, right? Because machines are just tools for humans. And so we've seen the same thing at Rilla. So our goal is not really to replace a sales manager. Our goal is to replace bad sales managers with great sales managers who are now way more powerful than before at coaching their people 100 times better.
I think my point is still sound. Gary Kasparov beat the computer. That was years and years and years ago. Humans cannot beat Stockfish today. And so computers will. So when Mythos comes out and you guys integrate new Mythos into the platform, we'll see. I don't want to take your thunder away. I know you're not trying to get rid of humans, because they are incredibly important in the process. One thing that strikes me about you, Sebastian, is you're an incredibly dynamic leader. And, talking to a lot of the people on your team, you drive a pretty intense culture. There's no kind of work from home, phone it in on the weekends type business. Is that the nature of just startups in general, or is that what's driving your success?
Yeah, I would say, the culture. I learned. I was like watching all these. I was like reading a lot about startups when I was starting my company, and like learning as much as I could. And there's this founder for like this unicorn company who said something interesting, which is, there's two hard things in a startup. There's just two hard things. There's one is finding product market fit, which is the series of miracles that I just talked about. And then the other one is scaling a world-class team to scale this product, which is one is going 0 to 1. Like, hey, you now have something that people want to now. Okay, how can we take this to hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in revenue? And in order to go from 1 to a billion, you have to just scale a world-class team. And those are the two hard things. If you can do those two things, you're going to win. So when I read a lot of biographies of Steve Jobs and Walt Disney and Elon Musk and Edison and Tesla, and it's just that one's just banana. You read it, and you're like, holy crap!
The
Like,
fact that he shows up in Seattle or whatever, looking out servers,
yeah, like
from
when I read that book, and I was like, dude. The problems that I'm facing are not that complicated. I can do this.
I know.
Like this guy's like
They're
making a
trying to launch,
rocket stand
yeah,
up. Like
17
that's
story buildings in this space, and they're
yeah.
running a roof. I'm running a roofing company.
Like, oh, like you're like, oh my god, we got no leads. Like, who get it? Like, dude, figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I read a lot of biographies, and one thing that I realized reading a lot of these biographies, a lot of these founders come to the same conclusion that the most defensible secret sauce that makes their businesses so successful is their culture. They always talk about their culture. And it sounds silly. It sounds like this wishy-washy, like, oh, culture, like kumbaya, we're all gonna house. That's not culture is the operating system of your business. It's the operating system of Rilla. Put simply, culture is how people make decisions when you're not in the room to actually supervise what they're doing. And you're not, I mean, at this point, Rilla is a 130-person company. Most of the decisions, 99% of the decisions that get made every day at Rilla, and we're not that big of a company, it's 130 people, are not made by me. They're made by other people. They're made by the other 100 people. And so I literally don't have the bandwidth to supervise every decision. The culture can scale to help people make decisions as if I was in the room. And a culture has to be cohesive enough and powerful enough so that it actually spreads across a large group of people. And that's how countries are built. That's how villages and then entire movements of religions are built this way, which is like these set of principles that everybody can agree on and everybody makes decisions in a similar way. And so the culture was just very important for us at Rilla. We have a culture deck that has 10 principles in it. It started with 8, then we added 2 over time. And we had that culture deck written out before we hired our first person. It was just me and my co-founders. We sat down, we talked about our personal values. What do we value in people? Who do we want to work with? What do we value? And we wrote down our personal principles. We saw that there was a tremendous overlap, which is a great sign, by the way. If you have a co-founder that there's not a lot of overlap in principles, it's going to be a failed marriage. Let me tell you, it's just not going to be a good. And so we came up with our set of principles that were just true to us because companies are just made by people and they should fit the values and the personalities of the people that run them. And so, and there's different ways, right? That our culture works for us. It doesn't work for everybody else. But what's really important is that the culture's strong. And that's not just words on paper. It's like, it's how you hire. It's how you promote. It's how you fire people. And so a very intense culture. We work really, really hard. We work 6 days a week. On average, people are working 70 hours a week on average. Some people a little bit less, some people a little bit more. And we hire people that want to do this. It's called the autotelic personality. It's these people that want to be in the flow state as much as possible. So we hire D1 athletes in college who are very used to this type of schedule where you're just like, doing your sport and practicing and that you're living and breathing this thing the whole time. We hire in engineering, we hire former startup founders who live and breathe everything they do. We have Olympians and all Americans that work at Rilla. And so we hire a particular type of profile that wants to, we don't have to force them. Like we don't force anybody to work hard. We just hire people that want to work really, really hard. They want to do it. They want to do it because they don't know it. Like we hire these disaffected athletes who didn't make it pro and they feel lost in life. They're like, I need some structure. I got a team and I got a coach and I need to, I need this in my life. And so, and it's not that, that's not the secret sauce. The secret sauce is that it's a really strong culture. Everything we say, we actually mean, and we actually hire people for this.
You hire and fire based off it. That's so important. What they always say is, culture is a collective values, beliefs, and behaviors of the individuals in an organization. When we set our culture, and you see a lot of private equity roll-up strategies fail because what they try to do is what I think IHS did so well over the years is that when we went to partner with another company, I made sure that their values, beliefs, accountability matched and their intensity matched what we had. So that way, these cultures, when they combine, could live under one umbrella and they were ostensibly the same. But when you see these other PE firms rolling up companies, they're just so wildly different. And heck, you actually see it even beyond that. When you got a Home Depot and SRS coming together, and I think they're doing okay right now. But wildly different cultures, trying to get those to be successful under one umbrella is going to be quite hard. But I commend that that spirit that you have and that drive that you have, and the fact that you are able to, well, like Ernest Shackleton in the Endure, was it Endure? What was the name of that ship?
Oh, that guy that's like
The
the
Endure.
dangerous journey ahead, and like
Yes.
like
Low pay,
case of
survival
success.
on
Yeah,
life wave. Yeah. That's
like
probably
in
one of
case
your ad.
honor in case of success.
Yeah, exactly. That's all you get. Um,
Yeah.
Sebastian, tell me about the future of Rilla. Like, what are you guys thinking about? Where are you going? Obviously, you guys are doing a great job penetrating home services space. Product development. Obviously, you don't got to release any new things on this, but if you want to,
Yeah.
feel free. But
um, uh, man, oh my God. I'm just like I always love talking about the future because I live there most of the time, and it's just such an exciting place. First of all, I don't think there's been a better time to build cool things ever in the history of the world. So I'm just so lucky. And just want to say thank you to all of our customers to literally allow me to do this weird thing of like putting dots in screens, and you guys pay us money so that we can keep giving you more dots on screens that are hopefully valuable to your business. It's just such a great time. And um and the reason I say that is like you mentioned Claude, like yeah, the rate of shipping for engineers has just increased so like dramatic, like more than 10 times. Like people are probably noticing this with Rilla. Like we're just shipping so many features, so many new additions, improvements to the product because we're using AI at Rilla also with our engineers, with our designers. Like at the Rilla Masters last year, our first Rilla Masters, we launched one new product. This year, we launched three completely net new products. We launched a ton of improvements for with we haven't hired that many engineers actually because we actually like to keep the team lean. So it's like insane what we can do now, like in the speed. Like I had visions of things that we wanted to build, and I thought it was going to take 10 years. We're literally building it right now. It's all happening now. Like all these different things, and um, you know, like we talked at the Rilla Masters, we launched Rick Copilot, which I was so excited about. Again, that was one of those things that I thought like, oh, we're going to be there in like 5, 10 years. And it's here now. It happened now. And, uh, and we launched this role play product, which we're so excited about the role play product. There's so many people. The role play product, that was the first product. If you think about Rilla, um, if you think about Rilla as a tool, we've built products mostly for sales managers. Like the virtual ride along is a tool that is a multiplayer game that needs the sales rep and the manager to do something, and the manager has to review and give some feedback. So we built a lot of products for the sales manager. We just launched a role play product where the rep, uh, they talk to a customer, a real life customer. They stop their conversation. The conversation gets analyzed, processed by Real in the same way, but then it gives them a role play. It says, "Hey, you messed this up in this conversation. Let's practice this thing that you just messed up with an AI role play, similar to the thing that you were saying of like watching yourself on the video. Let's do it again and again and again until you get it right." And so we launched that role play product. That role play product, we're doing so many new improvements on that. We have the role play training, which we're working really hard on improving right now, which is for new hires. People typically use LMSs and they use different training materials. It takes about a month, to 3 months to ramp up new hires to become proactive, effective at selling. And so proficient, sorry. And so this role play training product is trying to make that, way faster, way less manual work. And those are just the products that we launched at the Masters. And the reason I'm excited about these role play products in particular is because that's the first time that we're actively building products for salespeople, for sales athletes, as we like to call them. And and since we launched those at the Masters, because there are just more salespeople than there are managers, those role play products actually became our number one most used product in Rilla. Just like every salesperson's using it every day. Like it's just such a great thing
but
to see.
I actually tried it, and it's an awesome experience because it's almost like a competition with yourself. It's like you want to get
Yeah.
100 every time, and you were on stage, and you're like, I know I nailed that. I only got a 70. What the hell?
Yeah. If it gives you a score on the role play according to how you should have done better, it's like it feels like a little game because we want to make it engaging. And so, I'm super excited about those products. This year, we're gonna keep improving all those new products because we launched so many of them. And but I'm I would say like I'm super excited about this survey product also that we launched, which is this idea that like now our customers are using it to rehash people automatically. Like you have a conversation, there's a bunch of things that happen in that conversation, you didn't close it, instead of following up with some manual kind of unpersonalized message, Rilla will take all the content of the conversation, draft you all your entire follow-up sequence, a follow-up script, and then you just like route it to your CRM and it starts sending follow-ups automatically based on the content of the conversation, highly personalized. We're seeing massive wins with our customers from there. And so, yeah. And those are just the things. So we just launched that. We launched them last month. Literally, it was like March. We launched these new things, and this year we're gonna keep improving those. And I can't talk about what we're gonna launch. We're doing another event later this year, so
Yeah,
you'll be there, Josh,
I'm
to
sure
see
I'll
what
be
we
there.
launch.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah, it's gonna be a fun time.
I can't keep you all afternoon. I'd love to keep chatting with you, but I do have one more question. You're like a walking Red Bull ad. Where the hell do you get all the energy from? Like, is that shit just natural? Like, you drink a lot of caffeine? What the hell? Where does it come from?
No, I drink coffee once a day. Actually, when I'm more tired, I'm actually more tired today. I didn't get a good night's sleep. I was like up thinking last night until like 3 a.m. in the morning. So I'm actually tired today, by the way. So when I'm so you can see my eye bags. I'm like a little bit tired. So when I get tired, I actually speak faster and I get more hype. I don't know what it is. Like my body's just trying to resist.
Figure it out. Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
but I do drink this thing. It's called Magic Mind. It's this little green juice. Joe Rogan's
Like a
talked about it.
nootropic or?
Yeah, yeah, it has like this adaptogens and like lion's mane and turmeric and all these like really healthy stuff, and it helps me. It's not like an energy drink, but it's like a really good caffeine and focus drink. It's just really really healthy and good.
I'm gonna have to give it a shot, man. I have
Yeah,
to give it a
yeah,
shot. Well,
yeah.
look, I know you're a busy guy. Look, I've followed the product for a number of years. We use it at IHS. I think it's incredible. I think you guys have done a great job of improving it. Communication is great. Your events are unbelievable. I think you're an incredible leader as well, Sebastian. So thanks for taking the time out of your day and allowing me to chat with you and ping you, or I guess pick your brain a little bit. So
Yeah, man, this was so fun. Thank you so much for having me.